Jake Morrison looked out the window of his transport ship as it approached the massive space station. The Galactic Council station was bigger than any city on Earth. It spun slowly in space, creating artificial gravity for the thousands of beings living inside. Jake had spent 3 years preparing for this moment, learning alien languages and studying galactic politics. Now he was here as Earth's first official ambassador. The transport docked with a soft bump. Jake straightened his formal diplomatic uniform and checked his briefcase one last time. Inside were documents showing humanity's achievements, population records, and technological advances. He also carried a small gift from Earth, a collection of music from every human culture. An alien guide met him at the airlock. The creature looked like a walking flower with multiple eyes on thin stalks. It spoke through a translation device in a high, musical voice. "Welcome, Ambassador Morrison. I am Guide Petalin. The Council will see you in 1 standard hour." Jake followed the guide through wide corridors filled with aliens of every shape and size. Some walked on multiple legs, others floated through the air. A few were so large they needed special transport platforms. Jake tried not to stare, but everything was new and strange. The air smelled different here, like ozone mixed with exotic spices. They reached the council chamber and Jake's breath caught in his throat. The room was enormous, with seats arranged in rising circles around a central floor. Thousands of aliens filled the chamber, representing dozens of different species. At the highest level sat the most important members, the Council Prime and the leaders of the major galactic powers. Council Prime Zexathari was a being made of living crystal that reflected light in beautiful patterns. When it spoke, its voice resonated like wind chimes. "Human Ambassador Jake Morrison, you stand before the Galactic Council to request membership for your species. Present your case." Jake walked to the center of the chamber. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. He had practiced this speech hundreds of times, but standing here surrounded by ancient civilizations made his mouth dry. He activated his holographic display and began to speak. "Honored members of the Galactic Council, I come before you representing the human species of planet Earth. We are a young race by your standards, but we have much to offer the galactic community." Jake showed images of human cities, art, and scientific achievements. "In just a few centuries, we have developed space, travel, quantum computers, and medical technologies that can extend life and cure diseases." Some council members leaned forward with interest, but others whispered among themselves with what seemed like amusement. Jake continued, showing videos of human diversity and culture. "We are not a single unified people, but many cultures working together. We have learned to solve conflicts through discussion and compromise. We believe this experience can help the galactic community." A tall, thin alien with blue skin and 4 arms stood up. This was Senator Vorthak of the Zephyrian Empire, one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. "Young human, your presentation is interesting, but you misunderstand your position. The galaxy has an established order that has brought peace for 10,000 years. New species must earn their place slowly, under the guidance of their betters." Jake felt his jaw tighten but kept his voice calm. "With respect, Senator, humanity seeks full membership, not a subordinate position. We offer our friendship and cooperation as equals." Laughter rippled through parts of the chamber. Another council member, a creature that looked like a giant insect, clicked its mandibles. "Equals? Your species has barely left its home planet. You have no understanding of galactic politics, no established trade networks, no military strength worth mentioning. What makes you think you deserve the same status as civilizations that ruled the stars when your planet was still forming?" Jake's prepared response died in his throat. This was not going as planned. The briefings had warned him that some species might be resistant, but the level of condescension was worse than expected. "We may be young, but we are not weak. Human ingenuity and determination have overcome every challenge we have faced. We ask only for the chance to prove ourselves as partners, not subjects." Council Prime Zexthari's crystal body pulsed with different colors. "Ambassador Morrison, the Council appreciates your enthusiasm. However, galactic membership is not simply given because a species asks nicely. There are protocols, traditions, and established hierarchies that maintain order across thousands of worlds. The crystal being gestured to a floating screen that appeared in the air. We offer humanity protected status under the Zephyrian Empire. Your species will be guided and protected while you learn your proper place in galactic society. In perhaps 1,000 years, when you have proven yourselves sufficiently civilized, full membership might be considered. Jake stared at the screen, showing the terms. Protected status was barely better than slavery. Humans would have no voice in their own affairs and would exist at the mercy of the Zephyrians. Every aspect of human development would be controlled by alien overseers who clearly viewed humans as primitive children. This is not what we came here seeking, Jake said carefully. My government sent me to negotiate full membership terms. I need time to consult with Earth before I can respond to this alternative proposal. Senator Vorthak's laugh was like broken glass. Consult all you wish, human. The offer will not change. This is how things work in the real galaxy. The strong guide the weak, the old teach the young, and order is maintained. Your species will learn to accept this, or you will learn it the hard way. The implied threat hung in the air like smoke. Jake realized that this was not really a negotiation, at all. The Council had already decided humanity's fate before he even arrived. They were offering him the illusion of choice while making it clear that resistance would have consequences. Council Prime Zexthari dismissed the session. Ambassador Morrison, you have 3 days to consider our generous offer. We suggest you choose wisely. The galaxy can be a dangerous place for those who refuse the protection of established powers. As Jake left the chamber, he noticed how the alien crowds parted around him. Some looked at him with pity, others with amusement, but none with respect. To them, he was just another representative of a primitive species about to learn its place in the galactic order. Back in his assigned quarters, Jake composed a long message to Earth, explaining everything that had happened. He included his recommendation that humanity reject the Council's offer and prepare for the consequences. As he sealed the quantum transmission, Jake had no idea that his next appearance before the Council would be his last. 3 days passed slowly for Jake Morrison. He spent the time in his quarters reviewing Earth's response to his report about the Council's offer. The message from President Rodriguez was clear. Reject the protected status and continue negotiations for full membership. Earth would not accept being treated as a primitive species under alien control. Jake also used the time to explore the station and talk with representatives from other species. What he learned made his blood run cold. Every species that had joined the Galactic Council in the last 1,000 years had been forced to accept protected status first. Most remained in that position permanently, never advancing to full membership. It was a system designed to keep older, powerful species in control, while newer ones provided resources and labor. On the morning of the 4th day, Guide Petal Lin appeared at Jake's door. The flower-like alien seemed nervous, its eye stalks twitching more than usual. Ambassador Morrison, the Council requests your presence in the ceremonial chamber. They wish to hear your government's decision. Jake gathered his documents and followed the guide through different corridors than before. These passages were darker and older, with strange symbols carved into the walls. The air felt heavier here, charged with an energy that made Jake's skin crawl. Other aliens walked beside them, but these were not the diplomatic staff he had met earlier. They wore elaborate robes and carried ritual objects. The ceremonial chamber was smaller than the main council hall, but far more intimidating. The walls were covered in murals showing the history of galactic civilization, always with the same message. Younger species bowed before older ones, accepting their guidance and control. In the center of the room stood a raised platform with what looked like an altar. Council Prime Zexthari waited on the platform, its crystal body now pulsing with deep red light. Around the room, Jake counted representatives from at least 20 different species, but these were not the same beings he had addressed 3 days ago. These aliens wore ceremonial robes and carried themselves like priests or judges rather than diplomats. Ambassador Morrison, the Council Prime's voice echoed strangely in the chamber. Have you brought your government's response to our generous offer? Jake stepped forward. his briefcase feeling heavy in his hand. "I have, Council Prime. After careful consideration, the government of Earth respectfully declines protected status. We continue to seek full membership in the Galactic Council as equal partners." The silence that followed was complete. Then Senator Vorthak stepped forward, his 4 arms spread wide in a gesture Jake had learned meant condemnation. "The human species has chosen arrogance over wisdom, pride over prudence. This cannot be allowed to stand." Jake felt the first stirrings of real fear. "Senator, surely we can continue negotiations. There must be middle ground between your offer and our request." Council Prime Zexthari's crystal form brightened until it was painful to look at directly. "Ambassador Morrison, you misunderstand your situation. This is not a negotiation. This is a judgment. Your species has committed the crime of galactic arrogance, refusing to accept your proper place in the established order." Around the room, the alien representatives began to chant in an ancient language. The translation devices fell silent. As if this ritual was too old and sacred for modern technology, Jake backed toward the door but found his way blocked by 2 massive beings in armor. "Under the ancient laws of cosmic order," Council Prime Zexthari continued, "species that threaten galactic stability through arrogance and defiance must be corrected. Your diplomatic immunity is hereby revoked." Energy bonds suddenly wrapped around Jake's arms and legs, holding him motionless. He struggled against them, but they were like bands of solid light. "This is illegal under galactic law. I am a diplomatic representative." A new figure emerged from the shadows at the edge of the chamber. It was a reptilian creature nearly 8 feet tall, covered in dark scales, and wearing robes marked with symbols of death and judgment. This was Crixivore, the Council's ceremonial executioner, a Sorothan whose species had served the Council as enforcers for millennia. "The ancient laws supersede all modern treaties," Crixivore hissed, its voice like steam escaping from a pressure valve. "They exist to maintain the cosmic order that has brought peace to the galaxy. Your species threatens this order and must be taught its place." Jake watched in horror as Crixivore activated a device in the center of the platform. A plasma furnace rose from the floor, its interior glowing with intense heat. The temperature in the room began to rise immediately. Around the chamber, floating cameras moved into position. This execution would be broadcast across the galaxy as a warning to other species. "You are murdering a diplomat under the protection of law," Jake said, his voice steady despite his fear. "This act will have consequences you cannot imagine." "Council." Prime Zexthari laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. "What consequences? Your species has no real military, no powerful allies, no ability to threaten the established galactic order. You are insects buzzing at giants. This broadcast will show the galaxy what happens to insects that forget their place." The energy bonds lifted Jake toward the plasma furnace. The heat was intense now, making it hard to breathe. Around the galaxy, billions of beings watched as humanity's first ambassador faced his death. Jake realized that his words now would be humanity's last message to the stars. "My name is Jake Morrison," he said loudly, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "I represent the human species of planet Earth. We came here seeking friendship and partnership. Instead, we found tyranny and murder disguised as justice." The plasma furnace opened beneath him. Jake could feel his skin burning from the radiant heat. "You believe you are teaching humanity to submit? You are wrong. You are teaching humanity what you truly are, not the wise guardians of galactic peace, but ancient bullies who destroy what they cannot control." Crixivore reached for the controls that would lower Jake into the furnace. "Any last words, human?" Jake Morrison looked directly into the nearest camera, knowing his words would reach every corner of known space. "Earth will remember this. Humanity will remember this. You have made a mistake that will echo through the galaxy for 1,000 years." The energy bonds released him into the plasma furnace. Jake Morrison, Earth's first ambassador to the stars, died as he had lived, with dignity and courage. His screams were brief, but his final words would be remembered long after the pain ended. As the flames consumed humanity's representative, Council Prime Zexthari addressed the galaxy. Let this be a lesson to all species who would challenge the established order. The Galactic Council maintains peace through strength and justice through tradition. No species, no matter how arrogant, is above the ancient laws. The broadcast ended and the council members began to leave the chamber. They believed they had solved the human problem with a single, decisive action. None of them understood that. They had just declared war on the most dangerous species in the galaxy, one that had never learned to forgive the murder of innocents. The quantum transmission reached Earth 72 hours after Jake Morrison died. President Lisa Rodriguez was in a budget meeting when her secretary burst into the room, tears streaming down her face. "Madam President, you need to see this immediately. It's about Ambassador Morrison." The emergency session of the Global Defense Council convened in the deep underground bunkers beneath Colorado. World leaders, military commanders, and intelligence chiefs gathered around the massive conference table as the horrific broadcast played on the main screen. The sound of Jake's screams filled the room, followed by his final defiant words. Admiral Peter Hayes, commander of Earth's Space Defense Fleet, slammed his fist on the table so hard it cracked. "They burned our ambassador alive and broadcast it like some sick entertainment show. This is an act of war." General Maria Santos, head of the Colonial Marine Corps, was already reviewing deployment schedules on her tablet. "Sir, I can have the 1st Marine Division ready for deployment within 24 hours. Just give us targets." President Rodriguez watched the broadcast again, her face growing harder with each replay. She had known Jake Morrison personally, had dinner with his family just weeks before his departure. Now she was watching him die in agony while alien creatures celebrated his murder. "How many people saw this broadcast?" she asked quietly. Dr. Richard Stone, director of the Global Intelligence Network, consulted his reports. "Conservative estimate is 40 billion beings across the galaxy." The council made sure every species with quantum communication received it. They wanted maximum impact. "They got it," President Rodriguez said coldly. "Just not the impact they expected. Dr. Stone, activate all classified military projects immediately. I want every secret weapon, every hidden research program, every contingency plan we've developed since first contact." Dr. Stone nodded grimly. For 3 years, while Earth's diplomats talked peace with the Galactic Council, Earth's scientists and engineers had prepared for war. Project Prometheus had developed weapons that could crack moons. Project Ragnarok had created warships designed not for exploration, but for conquest. Project Odin had trained soldiers who could fight in any environment against any enemy. "The public doesn't know about our military preparations," General Santos pointed out. "As far as they're concerned, we're just peaceful explorers with a small defense fleet." President Rodriguez turned to face the room full of military leaders. "The public is about to learn what humanity really is. We've spent 3 years pretending to be harmless while building the most advanced war machine in human history. The Galactic Council thinks they've intimidated a species of pacifists. They're about to discover their mistake." She activated the communication system that connected to every human colony, mining station, research outpost, and military facility across human space. "This is President Rodriguez with a Code Black authorization. Ambassador Morrison has been murdered by the Galactic Council in violation of all diplomatic law. As of this moment, humanity is in a state of total war with the Galactic Council and all allied species." Admiral Hayes brought up a holographic display showing human space. What had appeared to be scattered civilian outposts and research stations suddenly revealed their true nature. Mining facilities were actually weapons manufacturing plants. Research stations were military bases. Civilian freighters were disguised warships. In 3 years, humanity had built a war machine that stretched across dozens of star systems. "The Council believes we have no military strength," Admiral Hayes said, studying the deployment options. "Intelligence reports suggest they have no idea about our true capabilities. They think our largest ships are the exploration vessels they've seen." "How wrong are they?" President Rodriguez asked. "We have 67 heavy cruisers they don't know about, each one capable of destroying a planetary defense grid. We have 300 attack vessels disguised as cargo ships. Our newest dreadnoughts are 3 times larger than anything in the Council database," Admiral Hayes replied. "And that's just the space fleet. General Santos activated another display showing troop deployments. We have 2 million colonial Marines trained for hostile environment warfare. Each Marine carries enough firepower to level a city block and is equipped with powered armor that can withstand orbital bombardment. We also have rapid deployment capabilities the Council has never seen. Dr. Stone opened his classified files. Our weapons technology is at least 50 years ahead of what we've shared with the galaxy. While they were studying our civilian technology, our military researchers were developing fusion bombs, relativistic kinetic weapons, and quantum disruption devices. We can destroy entire fleets before they know we're there. President Rodriguez listened to the reports with growing satisfaction. The Galactic Council had made the classic mistake of judging humanity by their own standards. Ancient species that had been civilized for millennia had forgotten what it meant to be truly dangerous. Humans had never forgotten. "What about our colonies?" she asked. "How many people can we evacuate before the Council realizes we're not submitting?" "We don't evacuate," Admiral Hayes said firmly. "Every human colony has been fortified in secret. Each one has enough weapons and supplies to hold off a full military assault. Our colonies aren't just settlements, they're military bases designed to look harmless." President Rodriguez made her decision. "Gentlemen, ladies, we're not just going to war. We're going to demonstrate to the galaxy what happens when you murder human diplomats. The Galactic Council wanted to teach us our place. Instead, we're going to teach them theirs." She activated the emergency communication system that would reach every human being in known space. "Citizens of Earth and all human colonies, by now you have heard about the murder of Ambassador Morrison. The Galactic Council burned our representative alive and broadcast his death to humiliate our species." Her voice carried to mining ships, in asteroid belts, research stations orbiting distant suns, and colonial farms on frontier worlds. "They believe they have terrorized us into submission. They are wrong. Today, humanity shows the galaxy who we really are. We are not victims. We are not subjects. We are humans, and we bow to no one." The response was immediate. Across human, space mining equipment transformed into weapons factories. Research stations revealed hidden military installations. Civilian transports dropped their disguises to become warships. The human war machine that had been hidden for 3 years emerged from the shadows like a predator awakening from sleep. Within hours, reports flooded in from human installations across the galaxy. The message was the same everywhere. "Ready for war, awaiting orders. Let's show them what humans do to alien scum who murder our people." President Rodriguez smiled for the first time since watching Jake Morrison die. The Galactic Council thought they had crushed humanity's spirit with their brutal display. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could imagine, a species that had turned warfare into an art form and was now ready to paint the galaxy red. Captain Steve Miller stood on the bridge of the USS Vengeance as it dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian home system. Around his ship, 39 other human dreadnoughts materialized from the void, their black hulls bristling with weapons that could crack planets. For 3 years, the Zephyrian Empire had believed humans possessed only small exploration vessels. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Captain, we're receiving multiple scanning attempts from Zephyrian defense platforms," reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the sensor station. "They seem confused by our ship signatures." Miller smiled grimly. The Zephyrians had good reason to be confused. Human ships looked nothing like the elegant, graceful vessels preferred by other galactic species. Where alien ships curved and flowed like works of art, human warships were angular blocks of armor and weapons designed for one purpose: to deliver overwhelming destruction while surviving everything the enemy could throw at them. "Open a channel. To all ships," Miller ordered. "This is Captain Miller to all vessels. The Zephyrian Empire murdered Ambassador Morrison and broadcast his death for entertainment. Today we begin teaching them the price of killing humans. All ships weapons free. Show them what human justice looks like." The Zephyrian home system had been at peace for over 1,000 years. Their defense platforms were designed to deter pirates and handle minor disputes, not to face a coordinated assault by an unknown military force. As the human fleet advanced toward the inner planets, Zephyrian commanders frantically tried to understand what they were facing. Admiral Kethrin, commander of the Zephyrian Home Defense Fleet, watched his tactical displays with growing horror. What are these ships? They're larger than our heaviest battlecruisers, and there are so many of them. How did a primitive species build such a fleet? His tactical officer, a young Zephyrian named Veltar, was scanning the approaching vessels. Admiral, their weapon signatures are unlike anything in our databases. Each ship appears to carry enough firepower to destroy one of our orbital cities. Admiral Kethrin activated the emergency communication system. This is Admiral Kethrin of the Zephyrian Defense Fleet. Unknown vessels, you are entering restricted space without authorization. Identify yourselves immediately or face the consequences. Captain Miller's response was broadcast on all frequencies so every being in the system could hear it. This is Captain Steve Miller of the Human Colonial Navy. We are here to collect payment for the murder of Ambassador Jake Morrison. Your council burned our diplomat alive. Now you learn what humans do to murderers. The first exchange of fire lasted less than 10 seconds. Zephyrian plasma bolts designed to disable ships for capture struck the human vessels and barely scorched their armor. The human response was devastating. Relativistic kinetic weapons accelerated to near light speed punched through Zephyrian shields like they were made of paper. Fusion warheads turned proud Zephyrian cruisers into expanding clouds of radioactive gas. In that first engagement, the Zephyrian Home Defense Fleet, 200 ships that had protected the system for centuries, ceased to exist. The human fleet didn't lose a single vessel. On the surface of Zephyria Prime, panic spread through the crystal cities. Senator Vorth-Ak, who had laughed at human arrogance just days earlier, now cowered in an underground bunker as human landing craft descended through the atmosphere. The beings inside those craft were about to show the galaxy what human soldiers could do. Colonel Amy Foster led the first wave of colonial Marines onto Zephyrian soil. Each Marine wore powered armor that made them look like walking tanks. The suits enhanced their strength, speed, and reflexes, while providing enough protection to survive direct hits from orbital weapons. More importantly, each Marine carried enough firepower to level city blocks. The Zephyrian military had not fought a real war in over 2,000 years. Their soldiers were trained for ceremonial duties and crowd control, not for facing an enemy that treated warfare as both science and art. When the human Marines advanced on the capital city, Zephyrian defenders found themselves outmatched in every possible way. "Contact front," Sergeant Dan Roberts called out as Zephyrian ground forces took position behind crystal barriers. "Platoon, show them how Earth deals with alien scum who murder diplomats." The Marines moved with precision that came from centuries of human military evolution. They used cover, coordinated their fire, and employed tactics that no galactic species had seen in millennia. Where Zephyrian soldiers fired wildly and broke ranks at the first sign of casualties, human Marines advanced steadily, each one a perfectly trained killing machine. But the humans had learned something important during their 3 years of preparation. They weren't just fighting a war. They were sending a message to the entire galaxy. Every engagement was recorded and broadcast, showing 40 billion galactic citizens exactly what humanity was capable of when provoked. The siege of the Zephyrian capital lasted 6 hours. The city's defenders, who had expected to face a small, human police force instead, confronted an army that fought like a force of nature. Human Marines didn't just defeat their enemies, they dismantled them with mechanical efficiency. Colonel Foster stood in the ruins of the Zephyrian Senate building, where Senator Vorthak had once laughed at human weakness. Now the senator knelt before her in surrender, his forearms shaking with fear. Around them, the crystal spires of the ancient city burned with fires that would be visible from space. "Senator Vorthak," Colonel Foster said, her voice amplified by her armor's speakers. "3 days ago, you laughed at human arrogance. You said we were insects buzzing at giants. Do you still believe that?" The proud Zephyrian senator, who had ruled star systems when Earth was still forming, could barely speak. "Please, we surrender. We didn't know. We didn't understand what your species was capable of." Foster activated her suit's recording systems, broadcasting the senator's surrender across the galaxy. "Your council murdered our ambassador under the protection of diplomatic law. You broadcast his death as entertainment. Now the galaxy sees what happens when humans seek justice." She gestured to the burning city around them. "This is just the beginning. every species that supported Morrison's murder, every world that celebrated his death, every being that thought humanity would submit to alien tyranny. They all have this coming. The message reached Earth within hours. President Rodriguez watched the reports from the Zephyrian system with satisfaction. In less than one day, humanity had destroyed the most powerful fleet in the galaxy and conquered the capital world of an empire that had ruled the stars for millennia. Casualty reports, she asked Admiral Hayes. 17 Marines wounded, none killed. We lost no ships and minimal equipment, Admiral Hayes reported. The Zephyrians were completely unprepared for modern warfare. President Rodriguez nodded. And the other council species? Panicking, General Santos replied with obvious pleasure. Intelligence reports indicate that 6 different species are trying to contact us to negotiate separate peace agreements. They're abandoning the council faster than rats leaving a sinking ship. The president activated the galactic communication network that the council had used to broadcast Jake Morrison's death. This time, humanity would control the message. Citizens of the galaxy, this is President Rodriguez of Earth. 3 days ago, your council murdered our ambassador and broadcast his death for your entertainment. Her voice reached every corner of known space. Today you have seen the beginning of humanity's response. The Zephyrian Empire, your council's strongest member, has fallen in 6 hours. Their homeworld burns, their fleet is destroyed, and their government has surrendered unconditionally. She paused to let that sink in across 40 billion minds. This is what happens when you murder human diplomats. This is what happens when ancient empires forget that young species can have very sharp teeth. The galaxy is about to learn that humans don't kneel, don't submit, and never forgive the murder of innocents. 6 months after Jake Morrison burned alive in the council chamber, Fleet Admiral Karen Brooks stood in that same room. But now it was different. The ancient murals showing galactic submission had been replaced with images of human colonies spreading across the stars. The ceremonial altar where Jake died was gone, replaced by a memorial bearing his name and final words. Around the chamber, fewer than half the original council members remained. The others were dead, fled or imprisoned on worlds now flying human flags. Those who survived sat in chairs designed for humans, rather than the towering thrones they once occupied. The age of alien dominance was over. Admiral Brooks wore the dark blue uniform of the human colonial navy, but she carried herself like the conqueror she had become. Behind her stood representatives from dozens of species, not as equals but as petitioners seeking mercy from humanity's new galactic government. The irony was not lost on anyone present. 6 months ago, Admiral Brooks began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's new acoustic system. You sat in this room and watched as your council burned Ambassador Jake Morrison alive. You broadcast his murder across the galaxy as entertainment, believing it would terrorize humanity into submission. She gestured to the memorial where Jake had died. Instead, you awakened something you didn't understand. You see, the galaxy had been at peace for so long that you forgot what war really looks like. You forgot that some species never stop being dangerous even when they smile and offer friendship. The surviving council members listened in terrified silence. Council Prime Zex Thari, the crystal being who had ordered Jake's execution, was notably absent. Its remains were scattered across 3 star systems after trying to resist human occupation forces. The results speak for themselves, Admiral Brooks continued, activating a holographic display that showed the galaxy's new political map. 17 Zephyrian worlds now fly human flags. The Sorothan Empire, which provided your executioner, has lost half its territory to human expansion. 12 council species have surrendered unconditionally. The display zoomed in on individual systems, showing human colonies spreading like wildfire across formerly alien worlds. Each conquered planet was being terraformed to human specifications, its atmosphere adjusted, its gravity modified, its very nature remade to suit human needs. But we're not just conquerors, Admiral Brooks said. We're builders. Every world we take becomes more productive, more prosperous, and more peaceful than it was under your ancient tyranny. The beings living on human worlds enjoy freedoms they never had under council rule. A small furry alien in the front row, Representative Quill Ipe of the Fennery Commonwealth, raised a trembling paw. Admiral Brooks, what are your terms for peace? Surely humanity doesn't intend to conquer the entire galaxy? Admiral Brooks smiled, and the expression was not reassuring. Peace? Representative Quill Ipe, we are at peace. The galaxy is more peaceful now than it has been in 1,000 years. Wars between species have ended. Piracy has been eliminated. Trade routes are secure. This is what peace looks like when humans are in charge. She activated another display showing crime statistics, economic, data, and conflict reports from across human space. Every species under human protection enjoys unprecedented security and prosperity. Your old council maintained order through fear and oppression. We maintain order through strength and justice. The chamber's doors opened, and Colonel Amy Foster entered with a detail of colonial marines. The soldiers' powered armor gleamed under the chamber's lights, and their weapons were clearly visible. The remaining council members shrank back in their seats, remembering the videos of human marines dismantling Zephyrian defenses. Some of you still don't understand your new situation, Admiral Brooks continued. You keep thinking in terms of the old galactic order, where ancient species ruled through tradition and ceremony. That order is dead. We killed it when we burned your fleets and conquered your worlds. She walked to the exact spot where Jake Morrison had died, her boots echoing on the metal floor. Ambassador Morrison's final words were, "Earth will remember this. We have remembered. But more than that, we have acted." His death was not just the murder of a diplomat. It was the birth cry of human galactic dominance. Representative Zorthal of the crystalline hegemony, one of the few species that had not yet fallen to human forces, spoke up with obvious desperation. "What do you want from us? What are your demands?" Admiral Brooks turned to face the assembled aliens, her expression cold as space itself. "Demands? You misunderstand. We're not making demands. We're informing you of the new reality." She activated the chamber's main display, showing the terms that would reshape galactic civilization. The Galactic Council is dissolved, effective immediately. All council laws, traditions, and treaties are void. In their place, we establish the Human Galactic Confederation. The terms appeared on screens throughout the chamber. Every species would be required to accept human oversight of their military forces. All interstellar trade would be regulated by human authorities. Any species wishing to maintain internal autonomy could do so, but their external affairs would be managed by human administrators. Species that comply with these terms will be treated as protected allies, Admiral Brooks continued. Species that resist will be treated as enemies of galactic peace and dealt with accordingly. The choice is yours, but remember, we have demonstrated what happens to those who oppose human justice. Representative Quill IP read through the terms with growing horror. These conditions would make every species in the galaxy subordinate to human authority. You're asking us to accept the same protected status you rejected from our council. Admiral Brooks laughed, a sound like steel striking stone. No, Representative. We're not asking, we're telling. And there's a crucial difference between our protection and your council's tyranny. Under council rule, protected species were exploited and oppressed. Under human rule, protected species prosper and grow strong. She gestured to the data displays showing economic growth in human-controlled systems. Every species under human protection has seen improvements in living standards, technological development, and personal freedom. We don't rule through fear, we rule through results. Colonel Foster stepped forward, her armor's sensors scanning the assembled aliens. Admiral, I'm detecting elevated stress hormones and signs of panic from several representatives. Should we provide medical assistance? No. Need, Colonel, Admiral Brooks replied. They're just experiencing what every bully feels when someone bigger and stronger takes over their playground. It's a natural reaction. She turned back to the council members. You have 48 hours to transmit your species' acceptance of the new galactic order to your home governments. Those who comply will find humans to be fair and benevolent rulers. Those who refuse... She shrugged. Well, you've seen what happened to the Zephyrians. As the aliens filed out of the chamber, many casting fearful glances at the human soldiers. Admiral Brooks remained behind. She stood before Jake Morrison's memorial, reading his final words carved into the metal. "Earth will remember this, we." "Remembered, Jake," she said quietly. "And we made sure the galaxy will never forget what happens when you murder human diplomats." Outside the station, human fleets patrolled space lanes that had once been controlled by alien empires. Human colonies, spread across worlds that had known only alien rule for millennia. Human flags flew over cities built by species that once believed themselves the natural rulers of the galaxy. The age of human dominance had begun, forged in the flames that consumed Jake Morrison and tempered by the fury of a species that never learned to surrender. The galaxy was learning a lesson that would echo through the stars for generations. Humanity might extend the hand of friendship, but those who strike that hand would face the fist of war. And in the depths of space, where new human colonies were being established on the ruins of ancient empires, children of dozens of species learned their first lesson about their new rulers. Humans protected their own, and the price of harming humanity was measured in burning worlds and shattered civilizations.